Very good. Very good. I'm going to start slowly. We've had some technical issues this morning. So I'd just like to welcome everyone. It's nice to see faces in the audience. My name is Kate Louise Stanford. I'm the Rural Area Director for Area F, West Howe Sound and the Islands. And we're here today with the Electoral Area Services Committee. I'd like to working. Bear with us. Okay. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging that we are meeting on the territory of the Sechalt peoples, and many of us sit here as representing areas from the Squamish Nation, also on the Sunshine Coast. We have an agenda here. Is there any additions or changes from the directors? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? And that's seconded. All those in favor? That passes. I'd like to also have a motion to accept all reports. Good. Received. And that's seconded. All those in favor? And that passes. So the first item before us is 3.1. We have a resident for Area F, Adrienne Carr. She'd like to speak to us about regarding Esperanza Road access to Soames Hill Park. So, Ms. Carr, thank you for coming. And if you'd like to start your presentation and just press the button so it says green. Thank you.
It is green, my favorite color. Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing the public to come and speak to your meetings. I'm good on my sound? Yeah, great, thank you. And also acknowledge with great gratitude that we are in the traditional unceded territories of Coast Salish people. So, number one, I just thought that I would give you only a summary because I've handed out notes to all of you. So I'm just going to do a few highlights, and I gather the 10 minutes I have includes possible time for questions. So I don't plan to take that full 10 minutes myself. And I do want to start by just saying that I feel our family is exceedingly lucky that we bought here so many years ago. So many families around the province, around the country, etc., would love to be in the position to live in this fantastic place. So it was over 40 years ago we bought. I'm not going to divulge how little we paid for our 5 acres at that time because it was astonishing. We built our home from scratch. I think it might be the first passive solar home built on the Sunshine Coast. When our son and his wife and child decided to move onto the property more recently, they put on an addition. We put solar panels across the whole of the roof, and it's truly a Sunshine Coast home. We put in a road. At the time, doing due diligence, realized that there was only one other property, private property, on the road, Esperanza Road. So our neighbor has 5 acres, we have 5 acres, and then there was Chamberlain Gardens, which accessed from Chamberlain. The other side all became regional park. But doing due diligence, we realized, why put in a public road when a private road would be completely satisfactory for 2 families to use? I want to really commend, I'll move forward, the SCRD, you as directors and staff, for making the decision to actually use Esperanza Road to increase public access to Soames Park. You probably all realize that Soames Park has a number of access points, but no parking lots around those access points. There's roads, yes, but no parking lots, with a very small space that is allocated at Bridgman Road, but it only holds about a couple of cars. So putting in that parking lot, you made this incredibly wise decision to increase public access, not just to that part of the park, by putting the parking lot in, but the most fantastic footbridge, and another footbridge too over Soames Creek, which has made this a most really delightful trail experience and hiking experience, and there are people who use it daily. That parking lot is absolutely full every summer day, all Christmas season, most weekends, even on rainy weekends, there's barely a day that goes by where there aren't cars there that people are using that parking lot to access not just the main trail through, but the other trails, and then all the way up to Shirley Macy as well. So it is, and the Frisbee course, that's true. They use that out too. So it's very, very popular. I think you should all be very proud of that decision that has contributed to public well-being and public health. I've talked to many people. In fact, I did some surveys. I stopped every single person driving down the road and walking to the road over a number of weekends and other days over the past number of months, asking people how they felt about the road. They hate the road. I don't know how many of you have driven down that road, but that road is so full of potholes, it's incredibly dangerous. Before the parking lot was put in, we maintained the road. It didn't cost us that much, way less, $3,000-4,000 a year potentially, because only two families, well, at the beginning only one, and then two families were using it. Once the parking lot was put in, and the road traffic increased, the road deterioration escalated phenomenally. Every single winter, the potholes reoccur, especially at the top part of the road. That is the worst part, the one near Old Chamberlain Gardens. I have talked to contractors who say it would be an easy fix. The contractor we've used in the past decades can't do it. You have to have a big drill to drill through the bottom of each pothole and then fill it with some appropriate sand, gravel, etc., rocks. And it would be a permanent fix because it's the clay that collects the water at the bottom of those potholes. So I'm just saying, this is not in your report, but I'm suggesting you might want to have staff consider that into the future. The road itself, after the parking lot was put in, was maintained by the SCRD. You did annual maintenance, so once a year there was, the trucks that came down and graded it, etc. When the potholes got really bad in the winter, I would call SCRD, and your staff directed me to call Capilano Road Service, and Capilano Road Service came in and took care of that issue. So there were a number of years where you took on that responsibility, and then for some reason, and I do not know the reason, that stopped. So several years ago, we have been in this issue of, are we responsible for maintaining a road that is absolutely used for public purposes and out of our own pocket paying to maintain that road or not? So our daughter and the property, I'm speaking on behalf of myself as well as the co-owners, our son, who built onto our property. Like so many of us, our children are moving back here. And he and his wife called the Ministry of Highways in Victoria. And the ministry said that when the road was used to put in the parking lot, and signage was placed at the end of the road and advertised on the website of the SCRD, SCRD assumed responsibility for maintaining the road. Those are the words of the ministry. So you did, and then you didn't, and that's why I think we're dealing with this issue right now. I have no idea why you stopped the maintenance. If you rip out the parking lot, our concern is that people will still, well, there's two big issues. One, why would you want to rip out something that is such a well-used public asset that people enjoy and love, and it contributes to public health and well-being? But if you did do that, if you stopped the maintenance, which you have done of the road, and don't continue it, and cars now know that access point and come down our road to park along the edge of Esperanza, which they do when the parking lot is full and there are so many people wanting to use that access point, then it becomes, again, you haven't solved the problem for us. The road will still deteriorate. Someone has to maintain the road, and it is not only ours, but as I mentioned, the Ministry of Transportation's opinion that by increasing that access, it is your responsibility. I hope that we don't get to that in your decision. I hope that there is a decision that assumes that responsibility again. But I don't want to do this, but I have been advised that to seek legal advice would be it would be appropriate for us to do. And as I say, that I don't think is a good solution. It's a costly solution, and I don't think that that's one that we want to see pursued. I also want to note that maintaining the public road has other public benefits. We notice that there is a place where ambulance and fire service has gone in to rescue people. If you take out the parking lot, how do they turn around? It's the most convenient spot to reach most of the trails as opposed to any other entrance within the park. There's also a water access point in that parking lot. I don't know if it's just to test the aquifer, but if it is a water access point, you should probably ask about that because it could be that that is an incredibly valuable source of water in the event of a potential forest fire within the park. As you can imagine, I am here to say we do not agree with the staff recommendation as stated in the report. We do support option 2, which would keep the parking lot in place and enable yearly maintenance. It's very strict around it, only once a year, and I don't know if it's possible for you to amend, but an amendment that enables some, as I've done before, and it has never been more than twice a year and usually only once a year and not every year, depending on the weather, the Capilano Road Services to come in when the potholes are particularly egregious and dangerous. So that is our recommendation, and I just, as I say, really want to commend the district for having put that access point in and increase the public enjoyment of use of the park and tourists as well. There's tons of people who come down the road who do not speak English, who know this. They have the map, they know where they're going, and so it's obviously contributing to our local economy as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Directors, do I have any questions or comments? Director McMahon.
Yes, thank you. I'm a frequent user of this park. When I bike to the park, I always bike to Shirley Macy Hall, park my bike there, and hike in over that, through that access, but there's a trail connection to that access. And Shirley Macy is empty most of the time. It has lots of parking and it has washrooms, which is a bonus. However, I do agree that if we maintain a park entrance and advertise it, then we have a certain level of responsibility. When you talked to the ministry, did you ask them to change the road classification?
It was my daughter-in-law who talked to the ministry, and I don't think she thought of that question.
And so that will also be my question to staff. Has anybody asked the ministry if they would increase the road classification? Because obviously it is a much more used road than it was. And I'm surprised actually that Capilano Highways did any maintenance on it if it's classified 8F, because they're not really supposed to. So perhaps we can hold that question for later when we discuss it with staff. Thank you.
Directors, any other questions? I have a number, but no? Okay. I've been to this entrance a couple of times, and it's never been super busy. Roughly how many cars are parked along the side of the road on a busy weekend, like just estimate?
Oh, I would say the parking lot generally handles, it's packed, but it generally handles most days of the and most weekends of the year. It is primarily in the summertime and on long weekends that the road gets used, like the parking along the side of the road. And I would say the extra cars, they've been as many as 20.
And then the other question I had is about, you mentioned there's been emergency vehicles coming and going. Is that like a yearly or?
Yeah, we're not talking about every
But you have
month or
seen it
anything.
more than once
Yes,
over
we
the
have more
years.
than once.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So if there is more questions. Okay, Director Bax.
Yeah, my question is, if I read this report correctly, that it says the cost of decommissioning this is going to be something around 30,000.
Can I hold you right there, because we are not at that part yet. We're just speaking to the delegation,
Okay.
and we'll
Question
talk.
for the delegation. Okay, that's fine. I'll wait.
Okay, so I find that, the arguments, or this is discussion points, there's some really valid points here. I also added that, I like the idea of having more parking than less parking for this particular park, just because it's almost it's one of our more urban parks. It's certainly one of the most useful ones. So, I think you've presented a compelling argument here. We're now going to move on to our staff report, and we can make our discussions and our decisions from there. And we've talked about how that process works through to board. So we can talk afterwards if you need to leave.
Great. Yes, I will have. I think I've mentioned to you that I have a urgent situation but I'd like to hear the staff report, and I will stay for that. Yeah, I will.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Having been a councillor in Vancouver for 4 terms, I love staff reports. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If it takes 4 terms to enjoy staff reports, okay, that's how it'll be.
Staff, love your staff, believe me. They're worth every bit of your love.
So thank you for the delegation. And our next item is going to be a staff report on Esperanza Road and the access to Somes Hill Park. So Director Huntington and GM Gagnon, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report, as you are aware, is to provide the board with an overview of the challenges associated with Somes Hill Park entrance at the end of Esperanza Road in Area F, and to present options for addressing these issues. Staff do recommend option 1, which proposes the decommissioning of the Somes Hill parking area at the end of Esperanza Road. Thank you. Happy to answer your questions.
Director Bax.
Thank you. So yeah, the process of decommissioning and then basically abandoning what seems to be a long-term commitment that we've had over this road would cost in the area of around $30,000, according to this report, which to me is along with the $6,000 that the recommendations call for to put in for a 1-year, one-time maintenance. That's 6 years of keeping this area maintained, and it's really a small amount of money to continue to support this particular area. I know I've been up Somes Hill a couple of times, and this is my usual entrance point, and so I know it is one of the busier access points, and it just seems like it's a small. I understand staff's trying to make our lives simpler here at the SCRD and to save us some money in the long run, but it doesn't seem like an awful lot of money. We often, in our grant and aid program, we give out $5,000 a year to a lot of different projects. And so this seems to me like a small bucket of change to continue with this program and to allow people to access the park and have a parking lot there.
Thank you, Director Beck. So there's a commentary. You don't have a specific question to staff. Okay. Director Lee.
I was trying to understand the history. It would appear from looking at the maps that this road is actually the only access for a couple of properties, 3 addresses it would look like. They have no other access to their property other than this road. I'd like to know if that's correct. And then I'd also like to know your opinion of why that was allowed when the subdivision was created. Because typically today they would make a paved road part of the access before they'd allow a subdivision. This is probably way before you and way outside your ability to answer.
If you are comfortable responding to that or coming back later, because it is quite far outside of Park Service.
Thank you, Chair. I just will point into the report that I think this dates back to 1912. So it is the history, we don't have the history, and I think that the delegation did speak a little bit to the history in terms of their contribution to actually building the road. In our conversations with Mott, it is actually dedicated by Mott as a public right-of-way, and it is an unmaintained right-of-way. So it's actually not a road, so to speak. It's an entranceway, it's a driveway. And certainly I think the challenges arose when we as an organization made upgrades to the parking lot, and I think the report outlines that as well. So certainly, like you said, Chair, valid points brought forward and that are articulated within this report as well, and a challenging situation for sure. Thank you.
Director McMahon.
Oh, sure. It appears that access to this park has grown organically over the years, and we don't, that I'm aware, currently have a park management plan for this park. Do we have it? No, we don't. That's what I thought. We don't have it for most of the parks. Has the SCRD inquired with MOTT as to whether they would consider upgrading the road classification here?
Thank you for the question. Yes, there has been high-level discussion with Mott over the past several years in regards to Esperanza Road and what options might be. The responsibility would lie with the SCRD to upgrade the road to an 8F standard before Mott would consider taking on the road as a public road. And then from there, of course, we would need to get a commitment from Mott that they would actually be interested in taking the road on after that. Thank you.
Well, actually, I'd prefer to have the commitment from them before we did the upgrade, just generally speaking. But, I mean, this is a lovely park entrance. All right. You're gesturing at me. What? Oh, I beg your pardon.
No, my apologies for making a facial expression, but just further to Manager Huntington, our conversations with Mott, it was about being a good neighbor in terms of offering some maintenance, but they don't, as the report says, there is no mechanism right now for any sort of formal agreement. So right now, on paper, it is a public right-of-way that jurisdiction lies with Mott. Thank you.
So as a follow-up? So as a follow-up, what would be the next steps if we wish to enter discussion with them about taking on the road as a maintained gravel road?
Go ahead.
So I'll just reiterate, I believe that's maybe what Manager Hunting was talking about, is that Mott would have to agree to it, but it would be up to us to actually bring it up to road standards. And even in 8F, I don't believe they maintain, so there's still the maintenance conversation after that point in time, because it's just considered a right-of-way, because it's a driveway. And our challenge is that as neighbors, we have promoted it as an access to the park, which is creating wear and tear on that road. Thank you.
Director Bax, you have another question?
I have a question that may or may not be able to be answered here today. The question is, to bring that road up to a standard where we could give it to Mott, what would be the cost of such an endeavor? And nobody's looked at that?
If you're prepared to answer that question, or we can come back later.
Thank you for the question. At this point in time, we don't have that information, but we'd be happy to look into it and bring it back to the committee at a future date, if that would be a part of the recommendation that was brought forward today. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, I was going to ask about if there's anyone that has any more information about the water access in the parking lot. Is it, I think there's a manhole or something in the parking lot, and what it is and what it could be.
Thank you for the question. As far as I'm aware, it is a well that is used to monitoring the water quality in Soames Creek as a part of the church well project. It's part of their licensing agreement obligations. Thank you. And it's monitored, I think, once monthly by a contractor. Thank you.
Good information. If there's no other comments, I'm going to propose to the Electoral Area Services Committee that we look at option 2, which is the staff recommendation on that one is page 6. And it reads for the public that the SCRD seek permission from the Ministry of Transportation and Transit to conduct annual road maintenance once per year, including grading, surfacing materials, drainage, ditching, vegetation management, and dust control on Esperanza Road, and that the park's operating budget be used to fund the proposed road maintenance, including grading, surfacing materials, drainage, ditching, vegetation management, dust control on Esperanza Road to a maximum of $6,000 for 2026, and that further budget proposal for ongoing operating costs associated with once per year road maintenance, including grading, surfacing materials, drainage, ditching, vegetation management, and dust control, be brought forward for consideration in the 27-31 financial plan. Now that's option 2. I'm still thinking about how we review the status of that particular road. So I'm just thinking about that for now. But that's my motion as a representative for Area F. Do I have a seconder? Okay, I have a seconder. Any discussion on the motion? Director Bax?
I have a question about this motion and the conversation that we just had with Manager Huntington, that we, in order for the ongoing future of this road, we need to find out from the Ministry of Transport what it's going to take to upgrade it to a point where they will take it on. And I was wondering if there's any way that we can incorporate that within this motion.
Just a quick response. I'd rather look at this first and then look at a
Then a
secondary
subsequent
motion.
motion.
Yeah. And Director McMahon and then Director Lee.
Yeah, I'd rather look at that separately. I can't remember what the next gradation is up from 8F. I think it's like 6D or something. But the next one up is, I think, what we should look at. I mean, if we start taking on the motley collection of roads on the coast, there might be no end to it. So I do think we need another bit. Thanks.
Director Lee.
My comments are very similar to Director McMahon's. We're engaged in a discussion with Mott about the access to the transfer station in Pender, for instance. Here we are now, we're grading it. And once you start, there's no end to it. And we started once a year, and I don't know where we are now, every 3 months or something. It gets more and more expensive. And this is a road. This is a road that should be maintained by Mott as an access. I can see where from 1912 to now, things have changed a little bit, so I can understand that part of the subdivision. But still, we're putting in a Band-Aid here, and we're setting precedents. We're going to be doing Mott's job pretty soon for every gravel road, or every one they don't like to look after, which that's a tough pill.
Well, let's not put any ideas in their head, Director Lee. Is there any other? Because I have a few comments. I have different reasons for considering this. Looking at this park as a whole, there are a number of entrances. Some of the entrances on the map aren't. There's no notice for them. One of them is Elphinstone Avenue, and they have a real parking problem there, as we hear about. I'm loath to reduce any parking opportunities for Soames Hill Park because of the usage that it has. I think it's a wonderfully used park, and its connection to the recreational area around Shirley Macy Park. We're just going to see more and more people coming in and enjoying it. I also think that this particular access is more of a flatter access. It's used by people that have a few mild mobility challenges, and it's easier access than some of the other entrances to the park. So for those reasons, that's why I was considering this. And then when we talk about the condition of the road, I'm very familiar with unmaintained dirt roads on Gambier, and I can't think of one of them that is in passable condition right now. I've just lost my golf cart to a pothole. And it's just also the way our weather is. We are going to see more and more struggles with dirt roads not being able to handle the atmospheric weather that's coming in right now. So may not be able to fix this right away, because that's what Capilano says. For our potholes, we have to wait till things dry out a little bit. But I think it's a worthwhile asset to maintain at this point. But I think it's also worth looking further into how we can better support access to some of our parks, recognizing they're not all in the same league as Soames Hill. Further comment, and then I'll call for the vote if that's okay.
I have a question about the, should this pass, and we're going to be putting money aside for the maintenance of this road, are we bound to engage Capilano, or will it be a call for tender, or is there other companies that could deal with this particular issue that we could deal with? Because I know Capilano's swamped. They've got lots of work, and but if they can't get to it when we need them to get to it, or do we have other options?
I do know Capilano does do private, or like off the side, outside of their contract, but maybe staff would like to be able to respond to other people.
Thank you for the question. Staff would have to follow our usual procurement processes if we move forward with this option. Thank you.
So if there's no further questions or comments, I'd like to call the vote on the motion on the table. All those in favor? And that passes. And I also will, oh, sorry, I have to do that. Any opposed? Director Lee, would you like your vote recorded? And he would like his vote recorded, please. And also I will add that I will commit to advocating for support for this road to Ministry of Transportation. and Director McMahon.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that. I just also wanted to make the comment that until recent years, almost none of our parks had any bike parking. And we now have a little bit, but this is one of the parks that's an ideal bike destination. It's not like Cliff Gilker is on the highway. And I do not take my life in my hands to cycle on our highway. But this is a really accessible park. So whatever we can do to encourage people to not drive to a place to do exercise, but actually do an active way to get to the park to do the exercise, it makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to frame a further motion that we could ask staff to report back on what would be the next steps in requesting that Mott increase the road classification for Esperanza Road.
I'm going to go to Director Lee if you want to take a few minutes to think about that. Director McMahon, I'm not going to.
I'd like to explain my negative vote. Because
Certainly.
I think
Go
that's
ahead.
important. What we have now done is we're now maintaining a driveway, and we took total responsibility for maintaining the driveway, even though we are the majority user apparently. But I think there needed to be some cost sharing and some plan for the future on how to get this made into a formal road, because that's what I believe it should be. So that's why I voted. I didn't think that the plan was a reaction rather than a plan. So thank you.
A good point, and I hope we can follow through. Staff, would you like to add anything to that?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to reiterate that staff have approached Mott around this issue, and the response has been it is an unmaintained right-of-way. So if we're wanting something more formal, certainly staff could write a letter and get it back in writing, but I also believe that your advocacy probably has a stronger sentiment perhaps than staff writing a letter, but that could certainly be part of a recommendation that you'd like to put forward. Thank you.
Go
I
ahead.
hate doing this stuff
Yeah,
on
I
the
know.
fly. Well, then I would like to move that staff write to Mott and request a review of the classification of this road. And then, as a board, we can follow up after that. Does that work?
So it has been seconded. General Manager Gagnon.
Just channeling my inner Sherry here. It's actually a right-of-way. It's not a road. Just, I think, is the proper term. Thank you.
And it is important because all these classifications mean something different to Mott, so if not to us. Did you get that, Autumn?
So I have that staff write a letter to Mott to request a review of the classification of Esperanza Road, which is actually an unmaintained public right-of-way.
Thank you. And we have a seconder. If we're all ready to vote, all those in favor? Anybody against? And that passes. Director Gabius, you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I didn't participate in the debate because you kind of laid it out very well and made all the points that I was going to make. And the delegation made some good arguments as well. And understanding what Director Lee is saying, I think we could also flip it around and say, well, we've been using a driveway for years as an access point to our park. So, and I think we're all looking for ways to, we have a lot of assets, we have a lot of things that we have to maintain, especially in parks, and looking for ways to maybe reduce that load. But I feel like this one is maybe not the right thing to, it is a popular access, it has a lot of benefits, and the residents are in favor of that parking lot being there, which is, I wasn't sure what the delegation was going to say today about it. So, and recognizing the benefits of the trail. So I think we're going in the right direction there.
Thank you. Last comments, Director Bax.
I just
It's a big
wanted, so
meeting.
I had a motion prepared, but Director McMahon got to it before me. I just want staff to understand what I would like to see in a report back to the board would be a specific classification that's a bare minimum that Mott will accept us to turn the road over to them, and what's it going to cost for us to get there. And so those are the questions that I want answered. I don't know if they were expressed in the motion that was passed.
Is there a basic understanding that that is what we're looking for in the motion that was passed? Question to staff.
Chair, I think where I am not in clear understanding is the motion actually doesn't have a report back to the board. The motion is about staff writing a letter to Mott, which we can certainly do. I believe what Director Bax perhaps is looking for is something more in terms of a feasibility of what it would take, what it would cost, so that's up to the board to determine if that's I don't think that is implied in your resolution as it has been tabled. Thank you.
Director McMahon.
At this point, given that we have quarterly meetings with Mott, I think that the directors can take this forward and have a conversation with them. And then if we need to do it more formally and with more clout, perhaps, we can follow it up later. Thanks.
And this is on my radar now as a rural director, so I do want to make sure it's followed up and won't forget it. Thank you. Okay, moving on in time for the bell. 4.2, we've got a proposed alterations to Cooper's Green Hall, and that's for decision. Thank you, staff. Whenever you're ready, you can introduce the report.
Thank you. The purpose of this report regards the Half Moon Bay Community Association seeking regional district approval for alterations to Cooper Green's Hall. Staff recommends supporting this request as outlined in the report, as well as the release of Cooper's Green capital donations designated for improvements and repairs to the Cooper's Green Hall to the association. Some recommendations are provided for your consideration, and staff are here to answer any questions.
Directors, any questions? Would you like to start, Director Gabias?
Let's get us started. Lots of things going on in parks. I know staff is very busy, so I'm very grateful for the time spent on this, working with the community association, who's got a really wonderful project on their hands here that will involve a lot of the community. So that's a very positive step in Half Moon Bay. I'm very happy to see this. I do not have questions. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So maybe I'll give the floor to the other directors if they do have questions before I make a motion.
Directors, do you have any questions? Director Bax.
Not a question, but a statement that I'm very grateful that we've found our way through this whole thing that's taken up a lot of our time over the last term that we've been involved in. And I think that the way that the regional district has worked with the community association is admirable. And I'm really glad to see that the money that was donated by the community is going towards the purpose that it was donated for.
Director McMahon.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little hall. I'm glad to see it getting fixed up. My only quibble in all this situation is that the condition of the septic field is not the best. And so I hope everybody can work together to come up with a resolution to that, because it would be an awful shame to fix up the hall and then not be able to use it because the septic field wasn't up to snuff. So, but I'm sure the community association is aware of that problem. So, yeah, and definitely the money that was donated to the hall should go to the hall.
Director Gabias.
Yes, I will move the recommendations on page 10.
Lots of secondaries. Director Lee would like to second that. Any other comments from directors? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor. And that passes. Thank you very much. Our next item is the OCP renewal project status update. Thanks, staff. And GM Hall and Planner Clark, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. This report for information provides a brief summary of engagement phase 2. The engagement activities to date are aligned with the adopted engagement strategy. The team is looking forward to one more community workshop on March 31st in Gibsons. We appreciate your support in getting the word out about that one. The focus of this report is an outline of the governance steps, including reports and decisions, planned from April until July 2026, aligned with the adopted project schedule. This plan is designed to support directors in defining a drafting mandate for the OCP project. As noted in the report, an additional check-in with the board is contemplated in late May or early June to support the decision-making path if desired, and staff are here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Any comments arising from this update? Director Gabias?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have a question, and if this is in the engagement plan, I apologize. I did not have time to review it, but I'm wondering if we have targets for engagement, and how are we going to measure the success of the engagement? Do we have certain numbers that we're trying to reach, or it's more like quality, or what are the measurables there?
Staff, quality over quantity is, where are we at?
Thank you very much for the question. In the engagement strategy, there are no particular targets in terms of numbers that were adopted, but generally with our engagement plans, we measure and report on both quality and quantity in our engagement.
And other questions on Director McMahon?
Yeah, just one of those abbreviations under external engagement. What the heck is the CLDA?
Acronyms?
Apologies for the unexplained acronym. It's the Comprehensive Land Development Analysis undertaken by District of Sechelt. It was pre-work done towards their OCP project.
I'm not sure if anybody heard you. Can just quickly say what that is again?
Thank you, Chair. I believe it is the Comprehensive Land Development Analysis. And that's pre-work that the District of Sechelt is doing before starting their OCP renewal.
Thank you. And there's a follow-up from Director McMahon.
Well, just a related question. Says the OCP project team is providing support to the Parks Service Review, and we were just talking about parks. So I was just wondering if you might say a few more words about that. The opportunities for alignment between OCP and parks classification work.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question. Because the Park Service Review is still underway, it would be premature to be specific about the results that we might see from this work, but we want to ensure that the level of development and the types of parks and park amenities match with land use designations to support community goals. And so there's a two-way dialogue between those project teams to ensure that we're working in coordination.
Director Lee?
I've said it before, but I'm going to do it again. On page 23, By the way, it is a great summary, the SCRD and growth planning. I did like it. But I read the second paragraph down, and it says the rural electric areas continue to grow at approximately the same rate as Sechelt and Gibson's, which has resulted in spread out development and infrastructure. And then it says spread out development can be costly for residents and ecosystems. To me, it says that we shouldn't be growing and we should be busy putting new housing in Sechelt and Gibson's. Was that the intent of that comment, or have I misinterpreted it?
Clarification, staff?
Thank you. That was not the intent of the comment. The intention was to suggest that there's a connection between development pattern and the financial and ecological costs of development. Thanks.
I don't quite know how to respond to that one, so
Well,
it's,
you,
it's
you
a
don't,
tough
yeah,
one.
why don't we could leave it till next time.
Yeah, I guess we will listen to the residents and we will decide what they want, and that will be the direction we go, I think is the answer, right? Do I have that pretty well, right?
Director Lee, I think you're trying to find a staff way of putting words in your mouth for you.
Well, I'm trying to get how I can explain that to my residents when they read this and say, hey, we shouldn't be growing according to this, because that's how I read it. I'm pretty aware that my residents do want to grow.
Well,
And I want their community to continue to exist as well, not shut down and move to Sechelt and Gibson's.
okay, but the staff did respond with a different interpretation. So whether you agree with that or not is up to you. Director Bax, do you have a comment?
An interpretation, as it were. So my interpretation of this is the fact that when you build a single-family detached home, it takes up so much land area, and it takes up so much energy when it's being built, and and the cost of it as well is greater than if you were to do a duplex or if you were to do a fourplex. These things are proven to use less energy, easier on the environment, cost less per square foot for the families. They're more affordable. And so that's the idea, is my interpretation, is that if we were to grow with more of these type of buildings, we could fill the housing market in a way that would be more environmentally sound and more economically viable.
So just so we can keep moving, because I don't want to dismiss your point, Director Lee. So if there's a way that staff can clarify that in the next update or help you provide more clear information to your community, so that's not taken as a direction not to grow anymore. Would that be helpful?
I think you hit it on the nose for me. I think that is correct. There's probably some way we can rationalize it and still continue and explain it. So yes, thank you.
So we'll work together on that and make it a bit more clear. Okay. Yeah. Director Gabias.
Yes, thank you, Chair. You're such a great chair. First, I want to say how impressive all the work that's been going on with engagement has been. Like, there's been a lot of action, and a lot of education, a lot of pop-ups, et cetera. So kudos to staff for all that engagement work. I'm wondering, because it's such a different way of working this time around, the harmonized nature of the OCP, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the past, an OCP was written by a core group of people who were meeting regularly and kind of getting educated on the process as it went along. And so that's my understanding of how it was done in the past. And this time around, we're kind of opening this up to the entire community, which is great. But I'm wondering if there's challenges, because as we go along, the information becomes more and more complex. And, you know, just for example, that the great map that the staff provided has been, you know, interpreted in different ways. And it's just there's that education part that needs to be kept up. And I'm so glad that staff worked with community groups to promote that, which was excellent. But I guess my question is, like, we're after phase 2, there's a big, you know, there's like this big period of staff working on the draft. Will there be, due to maybe some of the challenges, we'll see if there have been challenges, but will there be little check-ins in the next while as to see, like, okay, like, does this make sense? Are we on the right track? Just because it's been hard, I think, for a lot of people to kind of wrap their head around the project, because it is so, it has a lot of layers and is complex. So is there a strategy to maybe do small check-ins, whether it's online or something, to just make sure that we're on the right track with the project?
Clear on that, it's check-ins for the public, or?
Right, and then maybe check-ins is not the right word, but like just kind of, little prompts, or maybe to say, like, does this fit with, you know, like just little smaller engagement. Anyway, we'll see if staff.
Staff, do you have anything to respond on that?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. The 3 thoughts that come to mind are, firstly, we have appreciated the ongoing working relationship with advisory planning commissions who are providing a consistent sounding board and local context knowledge, and we expect that that will continue. Secondly, in terms of the intervals at which there are check-ins and directional conversations, Senior Planner Clark mentioned a contemplation of which would need to be discussed with you about an additional check-in this spring, knowing that there are these coming drafting direction decisions to be made. And the third is hearing the question about communications that might occur between July 2026 and when we're back for a further round of engagement. Staff will consider what would work well for the project and the board. Thanks.
Does that help? Yeah, okay. Thank you. So this was for information. If we have more comments, Director Lee?
Yes, I have a question, actually, and a comment. I'll make the comment first. It's very informative, this, by the way. I like it, and it's simplified, and it's easy to read, and I do appreciate that. But on page 26, it gives us the estimated cost of a new auxiliary dwelling unit between 400 and 450, 400,000, 450. But it mentions the high cost of land as contributing to that, whereas additional dwelling units generally are built on an existing piece of property. I was wondering if what I might be missing, are we, well, that's the question, yeah.
Staff?
Thank you for the question. This information is pulled from technical memo, the housing technical memo number 3, and the costs that are listed there, $400,000 to $450,000, are exclusive of land costs. But it is acknowledged that entry point means land, and that is a high cost in addition to what's listed there.
Director McMahon, you had a question or not? No. So I'd just like to add, this is a great report, and also the type of work we've been doing, the engagement level, especially with the workshop a couple of weeks ago. Lots of really good feedback from our APCs and our communities. 4 hours, and they came out from all parts of the coast to work through it. And the questions were very insightful, and I did get comments back as to how that helped them really sort of dig into what was being asked. So I really appreciate the work that was being done there. So if there's nothing more on the update, oh, okay, quickly. Yep, go ahead, Director Gavias.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I really appreciated the Esterian growth planning document that was that's presented here, and I'm wondering if there's a way that a paragraph could be added or mentioned. I think there's still anxiety in the residents when it comes to water supply and growth, and if there could be a way, layman's terms, to explain to people what the plan is there, so that there's so they understand the relationship between the water supply and the growth and how we plan on addressing that. I think that would be very helpful.
That's good. Are you okay with that direction, or do you want a motion? No.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Okay, now we're moving on to the variances part. Thank you, staff, for that. Of the agenda. Our first one is development variance permit, DVP 00101 1315200 Hallowell Road, and that's in Electoral Area A.
Hello. The purpose of this development variance permit application is to reduce the setback for a building from the natural boundary of Sackanaw Lake from 20 meters to, from 20 meters to 15 meters to allow for the construction of a single unit dwelling. The applicant has worked with staff and the wrapper team to come up with a plan that meets the intent of the OCP policy and also allows for restoration of the SPIA. Staff have reviewed the application based on the board's DVP policy and recommend that the variance be issued. Staff are here to answer any questions.
So I have a short script for the variance. Having heard staff's introduction to the proposed development variance permit, if there's anyone in the webinar audience or on the boardroom who wish to speak to the application, we ask that you raise your hand. If attending virtually, please use the raise hand tool or *6. I will unmute you in order of hands raised. When you speak, please give your full name, and if you wish, your address for the record. In order to keep our meeting moving, we ask that you please keep your comments focused and limit them to 3 minutes. Once the committee has heard from all those wishing to speak, we will proceed with a motion and discussion toward a recommendation to board. And do we have anyone online? Is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak to this application? And I don't see anybody. So I'm going to refer now to the directors to see if they've got any comments or questions about the report before them. Okay, I'm going to start with Director Lee because it's his area.
Actually, I'd like to make a motion that we refer the application to the Area A, APC, as they had difficulty with the first time, and this appears to be an excellent solution to me, but I'd like to give them a chance to weigh in as well. So that would be my motion.
Okay, we have a seconder from Director Bax. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And there's none opposed. Thank you. Our next one is 4.5, Development Variance Permit 5012 Gonzales Road, and that's also Area A. If we've got somebody to introduce that, Planner Copes, thank you.
Sorry, thank you. The purpose of this development variance permit application is to reduce the on-site parking requirement for the replacement portable from 19 to 0, to reduce the on-site parking requirement for the new child care center from 4 to 0, if the Ministry of Transportation permits a 4-spot parking pad in the Mott right-of-way, and to reduce the 7.5 meter parking setback to 0 meters to create space for 4 on-site parking spaces for the new childcare center in case a formal agreement with Mott is not reached by the planned construction date. The variance is required because the existing portable is in disrepair. A childcare center is needed in Madeira Park. The historical site design does not provide space for on-site parking without reducing playfield and playground space. We received comments in support of the application as noted in the EAS report, and the applicant is working with Seychelles Nation to address their requirements for the site. No opposing comments were received. Staff have reviewed the application based on the board's DVB policy and recommend the variance be issued. Staff are happy to answer any questions.
Before I read the script, is your suggestion to move this to your APC as well or not? Okay, so now I'm going to read the script again. Having heard staff's introduction of the proposed development variance permit, if there is anyone in the webinar audience or in the boardroom wishing to speak to the application, we ask that you raise your hand. If attending virtually, please use the raise hand tool or *6, and I will unmute you in order of hands raised. When you speak, please give your full name, and if you wish, your address for the record. In order to keep our meeting moving, we ask you please keep your comments focused and limit them to 3 minutes. Once the committee has heard from all those wishing to speak, we will proceed with a motion and discussion towards the recommendation of the board. Is there anybody online? So there's Mike J. online. Do you wish to speak to this variance? You getting? Yeah, we're always a little nervous about doing this because sometimes this is when we often get crank calls, so we're a little sensitive to it. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that, and I'll just ask if there's anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to this variance permit. And I'm seeing no one in person, and you're not getting response from. Do you want me to just, Mike J., if you want to speak, your mic is open. So hearing nothing, I'd like to move ahead. I see that there is a hand up from somebody in the gallery who would like to speak to this variance. Is that correct? So if you'd like to come to the mic. So there's a mic there. And if you could just state your name and general neighborhood, you don't have to have your specific address.
On and off. Sorry. Yeah, my name is Bill Charlton, and I don't represent anybody in particular, but been a proponent for the new community school building for probably 3 years now. And I just want to say that I fully support the recommendation of staff to proceed with this variance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to try one more time for Mike J. So if you'd like to try speaking now, Mr. J. And we're still not hearing anything. So I'm just going to move ahead with this process. I think we're good. And we also have a J. Elliott, if they would like to say something towards this variance.
Hi there.
Oh, I can hear somebody.
Yeah, there we go. My name's John Elliott. I'm a parent of a child at the school who frequented the daycare, and I just want to give my support for the project as well, for the variance.
Thank you very much. So I see no further requests to speak. And I see no further questions from my directors. Can somebody make the motion, please?
Yes, I'd like to say that I'm fully in support of this. I believe that it's quite essential to get going. It's been waiting a long time. I would preferred to have sent it to my APC, but time is too rushed. And I'm quite confident my APC would agree anyways. The parking has never been an issue with the classroom the way it was. It's a replacement for it. Parking in Madeira Park has always been a bit of a parking on the road right away, but we handle some very large events parking there, so I'm quite comfortable. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendations of staff as presented on page 40.
And we have lots of seconders. Director Bax, you second. And we're ready to make the call. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And if Planner Humphreys is going to come up for our next one. So for those of you in the gallery, I know this is onerous, but we do go through these scripts for every variance to make sure that the correct process is adhered to. So our next variance is DVP 00123, and that's 3110 Sunshine Coast Highway. So if the staff would like to introduce this, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. The purpose of this development variance permit application is to reduce the setback for structures and land alteration from the natural boundary of a creek from 30 meters to 0 meters to allow for the removal and reconstruction of multiple public use footbridges located in Cliff Gilker Park. The staff have reviewed the application based on the board's DVP policy and recommend that the variance be issued. Staff are happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No. So oddly, we're the proponent for our own variance, so that's why we're kind of smiling. And someone you would like to make the motion?
I would love to make a motion. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for bringing this forward. I move that we accept the recommendations as they appear on page 56, and Godspeed.
Now, I really should do the script again, but really? Yes? No? Okay, we're getting a nice shake so we can move on because this is, I think, well supported by the community to ensure that our bridges at Cliff Gilker Park get built. So all those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. So our next one is the Agricultural Land Commission application for 106033 877 North Road, Electoral Area E. And Planner Copes, are you going to introduce this?
Thank you, Chair. The SCRD received this referral from the Agricultural Land Commission to allow for the placement of fill to retain an existing manufactured home on a 5-acre parcel located at 877 North Road in Elphinstone. Staff have evaluated the application based on conformance with zoning bylaw 722 and recommend forwarding the application to the ALC for their review and decision. Staff are happy to answer any questions.
Director McMahon.
Yes, this is in my electoral area, though it's very confusing because the boundary zigzags in that area. This is a complicated file, as are a number of the planning files that involve the ALC. And while I think we will possibly discuss it at the APC, the decision here is fairly straightforward. So I am willing to move the recommendation on page 65.
And Director Bax, his hands up fast, so he's seconding it. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that passes. The next item is 4.8, the zoning amendment bylaw 722.4 for 1747 Storvold Road. This is an application withdrawal, and I'm not sure about the process on this, so I might get walked through if there's anything different, but if staff could introduce this, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the public hearing record for bylaw 722.4. The application was to allow for 2 auxiliary dwelling units and for assembly use on the property at 1747 Storvold Road in Area F. Following the public hearing, the applicants withdrew the application. At this time, staff recommend that the bylaw be abandoned. Staff are happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from directors? No. I think I have a question is why is this a recommendation? If the proponent is withdrawing, why is this just not a standard? We have to vote on their decision?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, because it came forward and it did receive readings, this is our way of rescinding those readings and repealing that bylaw and putting it aside.
So I am going to, as representative for Area F, make the recommendation, but also like to make a couple of comments afterwards. So, so that is on the table. I just, this file has been very difficult for the neighborhood, for the process. There's elements to it, and I completely understand how people have felt that they haven't felt heard, or they aren't feeling that this was a fair process. I don't think this is a reflection on the regional district or on the board. I think there's a variety of issues, and it's just sad. It's just a really sad scenario that possibly will go on beyond this particular file. But I do want to point out that this legislative process there's acknowledged limits the province has outlined along the lines of what does public engagement mean, how is it effective, how does a public hearing not become adversarial by its very nature, so the structure. Sometimes the length of time and the delays make, and these are all part of the process, but it makes for lack of transparency for people that are looking for clarity in sometimes very complex scenarios. And I'm really sorry that this has gone on the way it has. I also really want to acknowledge the work the staff has done. And I hope the community we can all work together to find ways to move forward. And I just appreciate that people did try and come together and work something out. And this is being withdrawn for a variety of reasons. So that's what I'd just like to say. And no other comments. I'd like to call the vote. All those in favor? Yes, and you can make a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, an unfortunate situation, but it really, when I was reading about this, it really highlighted the fact that we are going through OCP renewal, and I feel it's important to find a space for those kinds of endeavors. And I think hopefully we can, because I think the assembly was kind of maybe the closest thing that, but maybe like we need to find a better way to incorporate these really great, and there was a lot of support from the community, really appreciating the impacts that Deer Crossing the Art Farm has had on the community. So like how do we carve out spaces for these kinds of spaces? But yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah, this, and it is good to point out that sometimes the ideas are good, but this is about land planning. These decisions are always based on the land and not necessarily the people. And that's always been part of the difficulty of these kind of questions. So I hope there's space in the OCP and possibly other areas that could accommodate new and exciting ideas. So thank you. And so I'd like to move on. And the last thing we have in this section is Electoral Area B, Advisory Planning Commission minutes. Thank you, staff. Sorry. You have a question for staff or for the minutes?
On the minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's 4.9 is Electoral Area B, minutes for February 23rd. And you have a question?
Yeah, I do. It's a little unusual for me to see in APC minutes a referral from another local government. So what exactly is the process by which the comments of the APC are returned to the District of Sechelt? Because they don't receive our minutes, obviously.
Staff? Yeah. GM Hall?
Thank you, Chair. In this case, for recommendations 2, 3, and 4, if the committee wishes that the comments from the APC be passed on to District of Sechelt, it would be appropriate to pass a motion that they be conveyed or referred to the district. Thank you. And I should add, the District of Sechelt is aware of the meeting. They are aware of the minutes and prepared to receive them if they are forwarded. Thank you.
Yeah. Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, thank you very much. And for recommendation number 1, I mean, this is very interesting, and I think the map, the density map that was created, I think a lot of people struggled with it because Sechelt, well, for Half Moon Bay specifically, Sechelt kind of appeared as a blank. So it was difficult to imagine the growth of the region without Sechelt there. So hopefully at the next APC meeting, staff can, because I don't think the discussion happened at the workshop unless I missed it, but hopefully there's an opportunity for the APC to have a look at those two maps together. But I can move to send recommendations 2, 3, and 4 to the District of Sechelt.
And that's seconded. Did you get that, Autumn? Any other comments? And seeing none, can we call the vote? All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much. So now we're on to communications. 5.1, Ian McKay, Pender Harbor Living Heritage Society, February 13th, 2026. You can find that at 190 of our package. And who would like to introduce this? Not really an introduction. No, it's communications. So Director Lee, comments.
Yes, I kind of like the letter, but I think it's a little early. We don't know that the present tenant is actually moving. We haven't received the notice of that yet. And also, I believe if the building did become empty, it would be a competition to see who get it. But our Living Heritage is throwing their hat in the ring here. So I think that's fine, the way it is. Thank you.
Great. No other comments for that letter. And so finally, 5.2, such a patient group of people. Elphinstone Community Association and Ocean Beach Esplanade Neighborhood Association, March 2nd, 2026, regarding the proposal for temporary gangplank footbridge at Chester House. Director McMahon.
Funny you should mention me. Yes, I really, the community association has just worked very, very hard, and the Ocean Beach Esplanade Neighborhood Association to come up with a solution to a somewhat thorny problem in our estuary of Chester Creek. And I think it is the best solution that we can come up with right now. I can't see us investing money in a permanent solution at sea level, at an estuary, in a creek whose revetment walls are crumbling, to go to a house that was built in the 1950s and whose basement floods twice a year. So I think that this is probably the best solution that we can come up with right now, and a really admirable community partnership. So I'm going to make the motion that staff work with the Elphinstone Community Association and the Ocean Beach Esplanade Neighborhood Association to support placement of a temporary gangplank footbridge over Chester Creek by the fall of 2026, and moved to amend the scope of the already budgeted Parks Project CP 1451 to abandon improvements to the east access and instead support this goal. And I did send that by email, just.
So I'm just making sure, Autumn, you have that.
Okay.
And we have a seconder already, but I have a look on Director Gabias's face that says, I want to talk.
So perceptive. Who's going to do what? It wasn't clear in the letter who was going to be responsible for what. What would be the role of the associations? I don't know if Director McMahon can speak to that.
What great question, but the SCRD would have to lead this parade. It's our footbridge, it's our hall, and in, of course, partnership with MOTT, who have the what do you call it, the north half, the north end of the bridge is MOTT right away, and the south half is Chester Park.
Director Lee.
Do we have the staff capability to do this? I'm just curious about that. I guess I'm understanding we'd have the money because we're moving it from one place to another, but I'd be interested if we make sure, I'd like to make sure we have the staff time to actually make this happen.
Would anybody on staff like to respond? GM Gagnon?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the question. So I think that there's some due diligence that staff would need to do in discussion with both of those organizations to further explore whether this is feasible or not. I know that there's a comment around a temporary structure, but it's our understanding that the bridge might be temporary, but there's still permitting that would be required. We've got DFO permissions and things like that. So we do have this as a project for 2026, so we have staff time allotted. And I think the first step would just be going through the proposal, looking at the permits that are required, et cetera, looking at the budget and making sure that everything is still in order. And if there was any things that needed to be brought back for the board's consideration, for example, timing or budget, we could do so as it continues to unfold. Thank you.
Is that helpful? Yes. Okay. Any other comments? Seeing, no.
Yeah, I want to thank staff for their support on this. This has been a difficult journey for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? Very cool. Thank you. So that passes all in favor. We have no new motions. We have no new business. We are not going into camera. I would like a motion to adjourn this Electoral Area Services Committee. There we go. We got a seconder. All those in favor? And that passes. And then finally, if I've got any questions or comments from the gallery, the meeting's over, but I can take questions. And seeing no questions or comments, thank you, everybody. And look forward to seeing you next week.